Chapter 17. Earth Person stops tricking himself. Martian. How are you doing with your eating habits? Earth Person. Skinny City, here I come. I really seem to be making headway. Well, I've only lost a few pounds so far. I feel my eating habits are more under control. That's good to hear. Do you notice any other changes in your behavior? Oh, you mean like feeling powerful? Yes. Well, I really do feel more powerful just because I'm not worrying so much about food. I smoke a bit more than I used to, but that's better than eating too much. Ah, another way to trick yourself, eh? What? Smoking involves the same sort of power struggle as eating. It's another way to trick yourself into thinking you're feeling powerful, but the feeling never lasts. Smoking is a power struggle like eating? Absolutely. But I really worried about my eating. Smoking makes me feel relaxed and I don't feel bad afterwards. I see. What would happen if you quit smoking? Well, to be truthful, I'd probably be a nervous wreck. Anxious? Well, yes. So you smoke in order to stop feeling anxious. You could put it that way, but it's more than that. I actually feel better after smoking. I feel physically relaxed. What you feel afterward is a separate issue from why you start. It is? Yes. How old were you when you first started smoking? About 14. And what did your parents think about it? Oh, they both smoked a lot, but they didn't want me to. What did they say about your smoking? They didn't know that I smoked because I used to sneak into the bathroom and open all the windows. How did that feel? Actually, it was kind of exciting. They didn't find out about it until years later. All us kids used to do it. What would have happened if your parents found out? Oh, I would have caught holy hell. They didn't like disobedience. So you really tricked them pretty well then, didn't you? Oh, I sure did. How did you feel when you tricked them? As if I had really won something. I showed them they couldn't stop me from smoking. A real victory, eh? Yep. Now, do you see the relationship to your eating? You mean feeling victorious? Yes. Well, somewhat. Okay. What did you feel next after feeling victorious? I'd air out the room and flush the butts down the John, and then I'd relax. I'd feel quite satisfied with myself. Victorious and satisfied. Well, kind of. Although I wish I didn't feel as if my folks were looking over my shoulder. So you didn't feel totally satisfied? No, I guess I didn't. Are you suggesting that I was really feeling powerless? No, I'm not. Where in the sequence would you say you felt powerless? Hmm. Well, if I had to pick a point, it would be right at the beginning when I was told I couldn't smoke, and I wanted to. And that was a pretty powerless position to be in. Okay. And what did you feel right after you were told you couldn't smoke? Oh, angry. But I didn't say anything. I kept it to myself. And what did you feel right before you decided to sneak into the bathroom? Uh, Angry still. I was pretty teed off that my parents smoked themselves and still had the nerve to tell me not to. You didn't feel powerless for long, did you? No, sir. That's the same pattern as eating, isn't it? I felt powerless, and immediately after, I felt angry. Yes. And what did you feel next? I don't know. As I visualized myself there in the bathroom, I guess the next thing I felt was excitement. What kind of excitement? Like you feel when you're doing something you know you shouldn't? Like when you're afraid you might be caught? Did this have anything to do with feeling that your folks were looking over your shoulder? Yes, in a way. I was a little anxious about that. I guess I was feeling anxious and excited at the same time. And how did you get rid of the anxious feeling? By smoking. When I really got into smoking, I started feeling victorious, like I was putting something over on my folks. Oh, did you just hear yourself? Yes, that's interesting. I said that I stopped myself from feeling anxious by smoking, but I don't quite know how to say this. It was a different kind of anxiousness than I feel nowadays before I start to smoke. I know, but let's just deal with the anxiousness you felt then and get the sequence straight. Okay, it looks like you felt powerless, then angry, then anxious, and then you smoked. Then you felt victorious, and then relaxed and satisfied. The smoking came right between feeling anxious and feeling victorious. Oh, that is just like my eating, isn't it? My eating also came right between feeling anxious and feeling victorious. Yes. And since this is a powerless cycle, it probably didn't end with your feeling satisfied. You felt something later that returned you to feeling powerless again. Ah, guilty. I felt guilty. I don't want to make this all sound too pat, but the truth is that I eventually felt guilty about it all. Okay, now you understand the whole cycle. And you think that my feeling victorious in the middle of this cycle was an effort to regain the feeling of power that I'd lost in the beginning? Absolutely. But you must understand that you lost your power here in a different way than when you were eating. There, your power was taken away from you by your mother. Here, you gave it up all by yourself. I gave it up? Yes. You decided that you wanted something that you couldn't have, your parents' permission to smoke. You didn't have to decide that. By doing so, you induced your own feeling of powerlessness. I didn't want their permission, I just wanted to smoke. No, you wanted their permission. How do you know? If you hadn't wanted their permission, you wouldn't have felt powerless and you wouldn't have needed to feel victorious. I don't understand. Their permission was the one thing you were powerless to obtain. You weren't powerless to smoke, you did smoke, so you obviously had the power to do so. What you didn't have the power to do was smoke with your parents' permission, because they had the power to withhold that permission. By wanting something you couldn't have, something someone else could deny you, you made yourself feel powerless. Oh, you mean anytime I want something someone else won't give me, I'll automatically feel powerless because in reality, they control what I want? Right. And you'll continue to feel powerless as long as you continue wanting it. Oh, but in this case, I didn't continue to feel powerless. I switched to feeling angry and victorious. They were both part of the powerless cycle you kept yourself in. That's very interesting. Actually, I could have avoided the whole problem by just deciding I didn't want to smoke in the first place. No, that would have been even more harmful. Your problem was that you felt powerless. The only way you could avoid it was to decide you didn't want permission to smoke. Deciding you didn't want to smoke at all would have been something quite different. Why do you keep emphasizing that? Because deciding not to smoke at all is a broader decision than deciding not to want permission. If you make a broader decision than you need to make in order to regain your power, you'll lose more power than you'll gain. Why is that? The basic source of human power is to want. To want something impossible is a drain of power, but to decide not to want something that is possible without examining it separately is cutting off your power at its source. Oh, I get it. You're saying that if I used this situation where all I wanted was my parents' permission to stop myself from wanting something more than just their permission, from wanting to smoke, for example, then I'd be needlessly cutting off my power before I'd fully explored the possibilities. Right. Wow. The trick is to know what's really obtainable. If it's not obtainable, I'm losing power by bothering with it. If it is obtainable, I'm losing power by excluding it. Yes. The trick is to actually keep your power in places where you have it and not give it away in places where you don't. Huh? You just think about it for a while. Your statement wasn't wrong. It is important to know what's obtainable, but it's even more important to focus on your power. Oh, okay. Now, if you've been following this closely, there's something else you can learn. You'll see that your power struggle over eating occurred when your mother wanted something of you which you resisted. The struggle over smoking, however, occurred when you wanted something of your parents which they resisted. That's really interesting. I never thought of it that way. It's like you can want something actively and feel powerless, or you can merely resist and feel powerless also. Can it be that both sides in a power struggle feel powerless? Yes. The active person can feel powerless too. That's why when you weren't eating, your mother had to resort to forcing food down your throat or tricking you into eating it. She needed to regain the feeling of power she lost during your resistance. God, to think that things like that go on between mothers and children? It happens all the time. And how do my parents regain their feeling of power in the struggle over smoking? They didn't have to. You gave it back to them by tricking them into thinking you weren't smoking. Oh, wow. You mean they automatically felt powerful again because they thought they'd won? Right. Gee, that's really amazing. You know, it's funny. Life is really a series of incidents where you feel powerful, lose the feeling, and try to get it back again, usually at the expense of the people around you. That's pretty accurate. And these basic power struggles seem to be the source of most of the adapted child feelings that interfere with our lives. Rather than feel powerless, we feel all these other feelings instead and keep ourselves tied up in knots. That's right. Is this why back when we first met, you said it was so important for me to know what I feel so that I could know when I was feeling powerless? Absolutely. So that once I recognized it, I could stop the feeling? Yes. And how can I stop feeling it? You tell me. We've already talked about it. Oh, I know. I can turn off the parent tape that says I should feel powerless. Right. Okay, I'm with you. But what about my anxiousness? Is it always a cover up for feeling powerless? Sure. You felt anxious when you sneaked into the bathroom to smoke because you knew that you were ultimately powerless to stop your folks from finding out, if they really wanted to. They could always interrupt you in the bathroom, smell the smoke, or check your clothes for cigarettes if they suspected something. But the type of anxiousness I feel nowadays before smoking has nothing to do with fear of being caught. No, but it still involves feeling powerless. It just involves different forms of powerlessness. It does? Sure. Look at the situations in which you smoke. In social situations, it's usually when you don't know what to say. At work, it's usually when you don't know what to do next. And at home, it's usually when you don't know how to occupy yourself. There are other situations too, but if you examine them, you'll find they all involve feeling powerless in some way or another. Oh, but there's more to my smoking than just feeling powerless. Sometimes I feel that I need to smoke just to relax physically, that is. I don't think all of this is in my head. Some of it's physical. As I mentioned earlier, what you feel after smoking is a separate issue from why you start to smoke. You don't think smoking relaxes me? I didn't say that. Of course, smoking relaxes you, but so do a lot of other things, like watching TV, for instance. Well, no, I meant physically. Don't you think that smoking relaxes me physically? Yes, smoking does relax you physically, but the tension you feel in your muscles just prior to smoking comes from feeling powerless, not from anything else. You mean to say that feeling powerless has a physical component? Yes. Feeling powerless causes the muscles of your body to tighten. It makes your chest muscles contract. When you smoke, you inhale deeply and expand your lungs. That relaxes your chest muscles. You could get the same physical result by inhaling oxygen instead of cigarette smoke. That's really hard to believe. Why does feeling powerless make my chest muscles contract? It's a natural response, just like a cat tensing its muscles when threatened by another animal. Oh, but I'm not threatened by another animal. What am I threatened by that would cause me to contract my chest muscles? Loss of control. Loss of control? Yes. Whenever you're afraid you won't be able to control some future event, something your parent says you should control, you restrict your breathing. Oh, but why would I do a thing like that? Because when you control your breathing, it feels like you're controlling events. Oh, that's really amazing. You're saying that when I'm afraid of losing control, I always hold my breath and tighten the muscles around my chest, all to make myself feel I'm gaining control? Yes. Remember earlier when I said that fear wasn't a feeling like you thought it was? Yes. Do you remember what I said that fear was? You said that fear was a method of using energy. Right. What happens is that when you feel powerless, you put tension into certain muscles. You do this by withdrawing energy from the part of your body that becomes tense. In this case, your lungs. I do? Yes. Energy flows freely when you're relaxed. The way you create tension is to restrict your energy flow. Well, that's a little hard to understand. Look at it this way. When a cat's threatened by something, he restricts his energy flow by tensing his muscles, preparing to release that energy in a big burst so that he can spring to safety. Oh, okay. Well, the same thing happens to you when you're threatened, except that when you were threatened when you were young and put in a powerless position, there was nowhere to spring to. So what did I do? You kept the tension in your muscles. After a while, your muscles became chronically tense and resisted your natural efforts to relax them. The result was that you stopped yourself, both mentally and physically, from doing what you wanted to do, from being yourself, and from becoming fully energized. Oh, but why would I keep my muscles tense? Tension became locked into your muscles just as your adapted child feelings became locked on tape in your head. Constant exposure to the same powerless situations in growing up caused your mind as well as your body to lose its resilience. When you reach the point where you can no longer stop your adapted child tapes from playing automatically, you can no longer keep your muscles from tensing either. Oh, so the body and the mind work hand in hand? Yes, the body is really a reflection of the mind. Okay, so if I tie this all back to my smoking, the reason I smoke is that I start feeling powerless in some way and tighten my chest muscles. As I become aware of feeling slightly anxious, I start to smoke. Then, as I smoke, my chest muscles relax and I feel more powerful again. Very good. Well, the problem in the past has been that I thought I smoked to relax. I connected the reason for my smoking with what happened afterward, not with what happened before I started to smoke. Right again. Okay, now, I've got that straight, but there's still something bothering me. It seems I've got to work on two separate things. First, I've got this old pattern of wanting to feel victorious whenever I feel anxious, and it's tied in with smoking and putting one over on my parents because they wouldn't give me permission to smoke. It's part of a repeating powerless cycle where I trick myself into thinking that feeling victorious is feeling powerful. So far, so good. Oh, but I've also got this other problem of making myself feel anxious at various times because underneath it all, I'm really feeling powerless. You're making yourself feel powerless. Okay, yeah, that's right. I'm making myself feel powerless. So what's the problem? Well, how do I deal with these two separate issues? You deal with them separately. You decide to give up the need to feel victorious when you feel powerless. And you decide to examine each moment of powerlessness separately to determine what you're saying to yourself and what parent tape is playing that needs to be turned off. Then you decide to turn it off. And when I do both those things, will the final decision be automatically reflected in my muscles so that I'll also be physically relaxed? Not always. Your muscles have had years to lock into position. But if you don't relax automatically, you can use physical means like breathing deeply to deal with your muscles. Whew, this has really been complicated. But I finally understand myself a lot better than I did before. Now I know why giving up smoking is so difficult for most people. Are you going to stop smoking? I'm going to work on it and watch for the different ways I make myself feel powerless. I think if I just work on them one by one, I'll reach the point where I won't need to smoke anymore. That's a good start. You may still need to make a separate decision about smoking somewhere on down the line, but it will be an easier decision to make once you've got the whole process under control. Okay. Are we finished for now? I am, unless you've got something more to say. No, I don't. I am exhausted. Okay. See you later. Comments. If you've already had some success in learning to see clearly and you've done some work on regaining your power, you've probably noticed that you no sooner shore up your power in one area than it begins slipping away in another. If you deal effectively with your eating habits, you may start smoking more. If you stop smoking, you may put on weight. If you stop spending money recklessly, you may start philandering. It's as if your body is a container leaking energy. And once you plug up one hole, your power or energy starts leaking out another. This situation is very common. It occurs essentially because your mind and body are not yet in equilibrium, and you still have many adapted child feelings left on tape. As you give up one type of adapted behavior, particularly if it was very important to you, you may begin feeling deprived and try to compensate by substituting another. You won't, unfortunately, start substituting natural child behavior and feelings until your adapted child tapes are almost all eliminated or replaced. Natural child feelings are usually too tentative and have the strength to compete with more familiar and stronger adapted child feelings. The existence of these adapted child tapes will continue to constitute holes in your internal power container until you've actually eliminated them. This isn't a book on physical therapy, but certain aspects of the relationship between the mind and body are important for you to know. In the process of making early decisions about how to run their lives and recording these decisions in their parent and adapted child, people often record decisions in their bodies by permanently tightening certain groups of muscles. Tightening a muscle causes a person to stop using it freely and brings that muscle under the direct control of his parent and adapted child. Severe energy blocks caused by disagreements between the parent and natural child or between the adapted child and natural child may be physically maintained throughout a person's lifetime by chronic muscular tension. The decisions hardest to change are frequently those locked in muscles of your body. You may redecide these decisions mentally, yet still be left with physical programming that causes them to linger well beyond the point when they might normally disappear. Some muscles may continue to send messages to your emotional system even though your brain no longer wants to receive them. They may continue to drain your energy and sap your power unless the stress patterns in your body are deliberately broken up and the tension released through direct physical manipulation. Although information on exactly where decisions are recorded in the body is skimpy, it's been fairly well established that certain parent messages and decisions are stored physically in and around the muscles of the shoulders. A person with tense shoulder muscles, a stiff neck, and a rigid back will usually have more difficulty dealing with his parent and ridding himself of his archaic parent messages than a person without such physical symptoms. Certain adapted child feelings, particularly fears, anxieties, and self-doubts, are stored in and around the muscles of the midsection, the gut. Chronically tense muscles in this area not only cause ulcers and other gastrointestinal difficulties, but also prevent a person from getting in touch with his natural child. A gutless person has muscles so chronically distorted that he's constantly in the grip of some adapted child fear. A person who can't make good gut decisions has muscles so tense that he's cut off almost entirely from his natural child. Other decisions we make are apparently stored in the muscles of our legs, our jaws, and as we saw in this chapter, our lungs. If you reach the point in your personal growth where your redecisions are simply not being reflected in your behavior and in what you feel in your body, you might consider supplementing your growth program with some physical treatment plan to relax your muscles and open up your internal flow of energy. Treatment available in the United States includes A. Lomi body work, a process that focuses specifically on releasing energy blockages in the body. Lomi practitioners physically manipulate muscles to permanently release chronic tension. The entire process requires a series of from 10 to 20 sessions of an hour each over a period of 6 to 12 months. The sessions may occasionally be painful because some very deep muscles in your body may be extremely tight, but they're always worth it. Practitioners of Lomi bodywork may currently be found in San Francisco and Houston. It's a new science or art, and as new people are trained, they'll undoubtedly locate in other cities. My own experience has been with the Lomi School Southwest, which is run by Michael and Linda Smith. Their address is Lomi School Southwest, 1514 Missouri Street, Houston, Texas, 77006. B. Structural integration, sometimes called Rolfing, in honor of its founder, Dr. Ida Rolf. Although Rolfing goals are different from Lomi goals, some techniques are similar. The main goal of the treatment is to realign the human body in the gravitational field so that people stand straighter, walk straighter, and get rid of certain physical ailments that have chronically afflicted them. Treatment is compatible with Lomi, though Rolfing will not completely untie your energy blocks. Consider it a second choice if Lomi isn't available in your part of the country, or if you're not able to travel to obtain it. The sessions run for about the same length of time and involve the same sorts of physical manipulations as Lomi. If you can't find a practitioner of structural integration in your local phone book, write the Rolf Institute, P.O. Box 1868, Boulder, Colorado 80302. C. Yoga. There are many goals in yoga. You can reduce muscular tension and make your body more supple through yoga exercises. You can also release your energy flow through certain types of breathing exercises. The general physical and mental well-being yoga offers is compatible with both Lomi and Rolfing, although yoga requires more daily attention. To gain benefit, you must usually plan on a daily commitment of at least 30 minutes. Many YMCA, YWCAs offer courses in yoga, and many yoga books are available to the interested reader.